So, hey everyone, I'm back after 3 or 4 days and I'm continuing with my series of improving my English and trying to solve one coding question each day. I have already solved two and I'm explaining this one today, and I hope I can explain the other one tomorrow. Uh, so, let's talk about the question valid parentheses. So, this question is also a question of stack. It is marked as easy, but it took me very long to solve this question. Almost, I could say, more than 3 to 4 hours. I didn't sit continuously, but I was at it. I was thinking about this question all the time. So, initially, I got an approach, but thereafter, there were a lot of edge cases. I will try to explain each and every edge cases today, but and how I bypassed each one of them. So let's see. So let's talk about the question first. The question is called valid parenthesis. So to understand the question, let me open Paint. Okay. So wait, let me check if it is recording. Yeah, it's recording. Okay, so there will be a set of parentheses given, and we have to watch them. We have to watch their order to check out if the parentheses are valid or not. For example, this one here, we can see by watching it only we can say that this is a valid parenthesis. So basically, if we go through the question, we will get more clear explanation of this question. So input string is valid if open bracket must be closed by same type of bracket, open bracket must be closed in the correct order, even closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket, every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same time. Okay, so let's check out the first input. So first input is absolutely all right. Let's talk about the second input. Here we can see that the first parenthesis is closed by the closing bracket, so it's okay. Also the third bracket is again closed by the closing bracket, so it's okay, and the second bracket is again closed by the closing parenthesis. So this is an example of valid parenthesis, so it's all right. So we return true. But let's talk about example 3 over here. Example 3, we can clearly see that the opening parenthesis is the first bracket and the closing one is third bracket, so this is clearly not a valid parenthesis, so it's false. Okay, so what I did initially is that in this question there was a string given, the string of parenthesis. First of all, I broke it down into a character array and stored it in a character array. So the array is called ARR, and thereafter I created a stack. This question could be solved by using stack only. I don't know any other method. Yes, I definitely went through some tutorial, and they directed me to solve by using stack. It will be easier, and the time complexity will be good. Of course, we can solve it by using two for loops. Suppose for this we will check the entire character array. For this character we will check the entire character array and find out if there is any closing bracket and if they are in proper order. In that way we can do it, but that will consume more time as it becomes most probably big of n square. So we have thought of taking stack over here. So first what we are doing is we are declaring the stack right here, and then we are declaring a count variable and a count q variable, but the count q variable is needed. We will talk about it later. This portion we will talk about later. So first my initial approach was just apply a for loop to the length of that character array which I have defined over here. So check if the element has a opening bracket like this, and if there is any opening bracket, then push it in the stack and increase the count variable. Yes, what I told this, I will talk about this count variable part later. If there is opening bracket, then push it in the stack. If there is no opening bracket, check, first of all check if the stack is empty. If the stack is not empty, then do one thing, just declare a boolean b from beforehand only. Boolean b is equal to false. You already you can declare it right over here, and check for this function. Now what is this function? So I have created this function where I do what? I take the topmost element of the stack and I take the ith element of ARR. I mean, this will definitely be that element which we didn't insert in the stack because it's in the else portion. So I take the topmost element of the stack and check that element which is not in the stack, and that's in the array. That is most probably a closing bracket, not most probably, that is a closing bracket, of course. Then I check that, then I merge those two are characters, so I merge those two and make it a string. Then I check that if those strings are first parenthesis or a second or a third parenthesis. If any of this condition meets, then I return true, or else I return false. So this function basically returns true or false based on the answer. So yeah, I merge it and check, and thereafter I return b. This was my initial approach. My rest of the approaches, my rest of the code that I have not explained, I will explain one by one as we continue to detect one or more edge cases. I will talk about the rest of the code. So first, my basic initial approach was that. So after that, I experienced a problem. As you can see, there are so many wrong answers. Let's see the first wrong answer here. This was my very initial code. I did this b solution.march stk.pick and error I, then return b. Then what was happening, that in this case, as soon as you experience a false statement, you immediately terminate the program and return false. This must be done, because or else here what happens, this first character, this opening bracket enters in the stack, then this enters in the stack, the second character, the third opening bracket, I mean the third bracket which is opening one, that enters in the stack. Then we experience a closing bracket. Then we experience a closing bracket. Then this function is called, right? Then this function is called, and b is made false. Okay, b is made false. Then again, even after the b is made false, the for loop continues. The for loop continues because it is not completed yet. So again it comes to the else part. Now the pointer is pointing at this, and still at the top of the stack this third bracket is there. Hence the first character. So these two merges and it becomes this bracket, and b is returned to be true. So the although the actual output here is false, but I was getting the output to be true. So that was the problem. So then I fixed the code. Which is mm, which is I did is check for B. If B is false, then immediately return false. Okay, then immediately return false. Thereafter, then immediately return false. I thought this will solve the issue. So this was the first edge case which I was getting. So after making this statement, it was all right. It was kind of okay. So I did it. So the problem was solved. But after that, I again got a problem. What was that problem? Let's see. So in this case, what happened was that this parenthesis was actually all right. This parenthesis was actually all right. So these parentheses were actually all right. So this must return true. But what I was doing is I was not removing those elements which were done from the stack. I was keeping them in the stack, which created a mess, right? So first they encountered a open bracket, then again an open bracket. These were stored in the stack. Thereafter they encountered a closing bracket. Then the topmost element of the stack, which is the second character over here, this one, and this first closing bracket, they are merged, and this was formed. So it was returned true. After that, what we must do, we must take out this element from the stack. But I didn't do that. So there was a problem created. So what I did is that what it was happening that this bracket was colliding with the last bracket, that is this one, and the output I was getting was false, but actually the output will be true. So what I did is that I popped it, and thereafter after popping that element, the problem was fixed. So this edge case was also solved. But even after that, I was getting error. So what was the next error? This one. This was the error here. In this case, first it was entering the stack. Thereafter this was compared, then it is returned true. Again this was entering the stack, this was compared, and it is returned true. Okay, so after that we encountered this element. This should not enter the stack, so this didn't enter, and after that this one entered, this element. So when this happened, there was a bit problem. So in that case, what I did is I did this part. I checked that if the stack is not empty, then return B is equal to false. Okay, because what was happening in that case was this element was always there. It was actually staying in the stack. This was not getting any chance to be popped also. So this element was staying in the stack. So what I did over there is I checked if the stack is empty. If the stack is not empty, then I returned false. Okay, so that was another edge case that I faced. Now finally the final problem that I was facing is that um, here what we see is the first element is a closing bracket, so it does not enter the stack. Again, this element, this was opening bracket and this was a closing bracket, this was opening and closing, so this element didn't enter the stack. Okay, so this element, first element, didn't enter the stack, but these two were entering and the output was there to be returned true. Okay, but that is not the case over here. That is not the case over here. For that I have to check, I have to count the total number of elements, right? The initial thing which I have to do is I had to count total number of elements. I mean, there must be the same number of opening bracket as the number of closing brackets. The number of opening brackets and the number of closing brackets must be same. This condition I applied to solve this problem. So what I did is I applied this count over here. I did a count plus plus over here in the opening bracket series, and for else I did the count q plus plus, and thereafter at the very last I applied this condition: if count not equals to count q, then make the b false, then return b. This was the final problem that I was facing. So yeah, here it was. At first I placed the count in a wrong position, so it was giving a wrong answer. So the count q plus plus must be placed immediately after the else portion, which is over here. I did, and then I checked this portion and then return b, and I got the correct answer. Although my memory consumption and runtime was not very good, but the answer that I found out was completely my own. I made the answer, I debugged the code again and again to find out what are the edge cases, and all the ideas that I found to solve those edge cases are mine. So yeah, memory I will solve. I think I will try to solve the question regularly, so these things will improve. And I also have to learn a few more techniques, before I become pro. So yeah, later on I also optimized this portion. I was doing that if b is equal to false, then break. I optimized this portion that instead of break I just applied return false. So this was, in that way it was solved. Here the final answer, I did the return false thing over here and I submitted the question. Okay, that was it. Thank you for watching.